look, I'm not fearful of any of them. That's the whole point. Over this next stretch, you shouldn't be fearful of any of them. You should thank your lucky stars that's who's they're putting up the bowling pins. I mean, you just have to take advantage of it.
See the smiling face of Jeff Kerr. He's in for John McMullen. Oh, you see Johnny Mac. Now, that's just a stock photo. He's not actually with us live, but he's with us live on the phone, which means he's going to start the show with us today. John McMullen, how many Miles Sanders texts or tweets have you gotten in the last 24 hours?
Not as many. I think, people are starting to realize I was right, after saying that, which they often do. Let's be honest, Shady. I'll start off on a good note.
Yeah, the whole Miles Sanders thing should shake out today. Nick Sirianni is speaking today before practice. Is that the timing of the coach's appearance?
Yeah, he always talks before practice. Nick, not always. Friday he doesn't. He talks after. But that's typical for Wednesday practice. He does it before.
So do you think he'll be announcing whether Miles Sanders is or isn't practicing today?
The Eagles will probably announce that via Twitter is how they usually do things. They'll activate his 21-day practice window. They could activate him and put him on the 53-man roster right away. There's no need to,
right?
Because they have that mechanism. Which means, you could be cautious and play that game and say he needs a week to get back into game shape, or you can play him on Sunday. So that's going to be the most interesting decision. Do the Eagles immediately want to throw him back in the mix and mess with what's working for him, which has been Jordan Howard and Boston Scott, or Boston Scott actually and Jordan Howard, which has been, let's be honest, it's been very effective. And this happens in sports. Jody, you've been around a long time, certainly, and it's usually over a short sample size, to be honest. Nobody's questioned. Miles Sanders has way more talent than both of those players, and I mean way more talent. Nobody's questioning that. But for whatever reason, the Eagles have played better with Boston Scott and Jordan Howard, and maybe it's just the coaching staff realizing what's a better way to handle a Jalen Hurts-led offense more than Miles Sanders, because to go all the way back to the Las Vegas game when he got hurt early in that game, he was effective early, and they had shifted. So there's no law that says Miles Sanders can't be effective the way those guys have been effective. It's just now that you've seen it and it's out there, you have to ask the question, say, what's going on here? Because the one thing with Miles as a runner, look, he's going to try to hit the home run on occasion. And sometimes he's not going to take what's there, that 3 or 4 yards that Jordan Howard best exemplifies is going to take. He's going to run for what the play is blocked for. On the other hand, Miles Sanders is way, way more explosive and way more difficult for defenses to prepare for, to handle. So ultimately, look, the Eagles are going to get Miles Sanders on the field. The real issue starts, if it starts at all, if he's not effective. But they're going to put him on the field. It's just a matter of when.
John, one thing with Miles Sanders' game over the last 2 years I thought has been the biggest detriment to him has been his pass catching ability. We all know what he did his rookie year, averaged 10.2 yards per catch. He was a dynamic threat out of the backfield. Do you feel they could get him involved in the pass game more just to kind of get him going?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty evident that they don't view him that way. So I mean, from early on, look, and I always say it was the Jets practices. That was like the final exam for Kenny Gainwell, the joint practices. Kenny's a natural receiver. I mean, he's just got great hands. He's just got a feel for it. And Miles is sort of, the same way he is as a runner. He's a home run hitter. If he catches the ball and it's blocked well, he can do some really impressive things. But the consistency is just not there. As far not only catching the football, I think that's what everybody focuses on. I can tell you for the old coaching staff and the old quarterback, the issue was, I mean, he was never where he was supposed to be, and as a running back, that's paramount, because if you're the outlet receiver, I mean, you can imagine a quarterback and all the traffic, and you're the last resort. And a lot of times they're going to throw the football and not even see it. If they're getting hit, they're going to say, okay, my running back's here and you better be there, or ugly things can happen, even if it's just looking like a very ugly play. And you saw it a number of times with Carson Wentz. People would say, what the heck is Carson doing? Where's that throw? And then a couple days later, I talked to the coaches and they'd say, well, the running back is supposed to be there and he's not there. That was the biggest issue, even more than the hands, which are not great, but they're probably average. But again, when you have that ability to go 75, 80 yards, and it's not Miles Sanders' fault that fans pump him up to be in the same category as the great runners in this league. That's not his fault. I mean, he's still a very good player.
But where it is his fault is the fact that he decided to jump on social media and announce to the world last week prior to the game, which he was ineligible for because he was on IR, that he was back. So he kind of got this whole conversation started by stirring the pot on social media. John, you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. Will they actually activate all four backs? You think it's a possibility? I think less so. How much is special teams the deciding factor in this? All four of those guys, whatever they contribute to special teams, will that decide whether they go with 3 or 4 backs on Sunday?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, if you're going to be the fourth back and you're not going to touch the football in the offense, you better play special teams or there's no use for you being up. And that's why I think it's not that big of a deal, because Boston Scott can play special teams and contribute in that fashion. So ultimately, I think when the Eagles get to it, I think Miles Sanders is going to be the starting running back. I think Jordan Howard's going to be the complement, the between the tackles guy. And I think Kenny Gainwell is going to be the third down hurry up back that he's been the entire season. And Boston will go back to special teams. But I do think all four are going to address, and Boston has earned that right, and he's he's a big part of this team, even though he's going to be the odd man out in the running back rotation, which is a little bit unfair. But and if you want to look at it from as a rookie, Kenny Gainwell has probably regressed over the past couple of weeks, and that's typical for a rookie. It's difficult to have that consistency, but he provides something that the other three don't provide. So they're gonna keep him up as well, and we'll see how it shakes out. That's my speculation. That's the way I think they're going to go.
John, I didn't get a chance to talk to you about this, but Nick Sirianni's comments Monday night on Jalen Hurts, they were kind of eye-popping to me, especially after he went a little, in my opinion, I don't want to say overboard, but he could have just made it a simple answer, and he decided to really defend his quarterback there. What did you make of the comments on Jalen Hurts Monday night?
I mean, that's the way Nick is, obviously, number one. And you want your coach to pump up your players, especially after they played well. And that was, the first half certainly was the best Jalen Hurts has ever played as a professional, in my estimation, certainly in a lot of people's eyes. And Shane Steichen confirmed that again yesterday. So, I mean, he played great. It's easy to pump somebody up. I think there's two things. And Nick has sort of went down this route and said, to his credit, I'm gonna try to win football games the best way I can win football games, and I'm gonna take advantage of what I have. And I think he's done that. And I think there was some concern, dating all the way back to when the Eagles hired him, because not a lot of people knew a lot about Nick Sirianni, and they thought, hey, we had people on the show, Jody, who would say, Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are going to strong arm this guy and force him to do certain things. Not at all. He's doing what he wants to do. He's doing what he thinks is best to win on Sundays. I don't know what he's sharing behind the scenes, but I can tell you it doesn't matter. And he has shifted this offense, and he's had success. And I think that's a very positive development from the coach's perspective. And obviously the quarterback is improving in this offense versus the offense that they started the season with.
Nick Sirianni's communicative skills are something that has been talked about a lot since the day that he was hired, did his original press conference and kind of put everybody on edge. We know he's gone down some original roads as far as growing plants and the like. But one thing that he's stuck with, and it's old school, and I like the fact that he at least puts forth this front, is that they played them one at a time. They're just worried about who they're playing this week. So all is a focus, and all the team's focus is on the New Orleans Saints. Is that 100% what's going on behind the room, behind the curtain, inside the room? Can they just keep it narrow focused? Because the players tell you all the time, I don't hear the radio, I don't hear Birds 365, I don't read the newspapers, I don't go to CBSSports.com. There is a little buzz out there about the Eagles as a potential playoff team. Can Nick Sirianni keep that out of the room?
No, I think it's much harder for players. I think you see it, we talked about social media and Miles Sanders. I mean, social media is rat poison, as Nick Saban would say. And Jalen Hurts constantly refers to, it's really difficult. I think it's easier for the coaches, but even the coaches hear what there's being said and written about them, and they tweak us behind the scenes at times and, correct us or say that's bull bleep and whatever. But, they see it. But I think from the perspective of concentrating on the next opponent, I think it's really easy for coaches. I think it's really easy because there's not enough time in the day to prepare for the New Orleans Saints than to worry about what's coming up down the road. So I think that kind of takes care of itself. But the players peek ahead, and I forget, somebody said that earlier. Anyone who says they don't is lying. So they know it looks easier. It's one of the reasons I picked the Eagles to beat the Broncos, because, the Broncos young players who played well in Dallas, and there were a lot of them, they were probably feeling themselves a little bit. And it's difficult to handle success as adversity. We've seen that over the years with young players in the NFL. So that's always a problem, to keep everybody focused. I don't think it'll be difficult for the Eagles this week because they haven't won a game at home. And like I said, when, the Eagles put up Nick Sirianni's post-game speech after the win, as organizations are wont to do, and he was already talking about, we got to get a win at home. We got to get, he stuck that in there. So he's well aware, they're winless at Lincoln Financial Field, and obviously that can't continue. So I don't think it'll be a problem this week.
John, you kind of led into this a little bit for me. The Eagles, I remember in 2013, I think they had a 10-game losing streak at Lincoln Financial Field, and they finally were able to get one. I'm trying to remember the game it was. I might have been against the Giants, against Nick Foles when they snapped it. I can't remember the exact game, but once they did the floodgates kind of opened a little bit, and they went on a little bit of wing streak because they got that win at home. How much you kind of led into this a bit, but how much does this team feel like that's, I don't know, a monkey on their back or a burden for them right now?
I think it's a little bit of a monkey on their back just because of, it is what it is. They haven't won at home. I mean, we always talk about home field advantages in this league and the significant ones, but they're only significant when you have a good team. I mean, if you have a really good team and you're playing at home, then it's really difficult. If you're not, then it's not. It doesn't matter the fan base. It doesn't matter the passion. It doesn't matter what. I mean, it's just difficult to win anywhere. And I always joke about Green Bay because everyone talks about the story tradition of Lambeau Field. Well, it didn't even exist between Bart Starr and Brett Favre. It was like 2 decades where they were one of the worst teams in football. They had no home field advantage to the point they played half their games in Milwaukee because they said, who cares? We can't win anywhere. So it doesn't exist when you're a bad football team. When you're a good football team, Lincoln Financial Field is a really, really difficult place to play. Really difficult. And obviously that's the goal. The Eagles want to get back to where they're a good football team, and then the home field advantage will start to show up again. So, I mean, that's not just Philadelphia. That's everywhere.
I think you just did a major disservice to the Magic Man, Don Mikowski, but
I don't think I did, Jody. Look at those 2 decades. They were not pretty.
For the majority of those 2 decades, you're right. But the Magic Man started the Lambeau Field turnaround before.
Yeah. Mid-'80s.
I don't think he's going to the ring of honor there.
Yeah, all right. He might come up a little short there. You got a point. Here's one thing you and I haven't talked about much on the air. Maybe we should. When the Eagles got off to their slow start and we're sitting here at 2-5 and wondering if this season can go down the toilet bowl, one of the contributing factors was they take too many dumb penalties. That they were one of the most penalized team in the National Football League through the first 6 or 7 games of the season. This side, Derek Barnett, a lot of those dumb penalties have dried up. Offensive line, young guys getting a little bit more into sync, getting their run on, guys playing more disciplined football. If we acknowledge that the Eagles have gotten better at not self-inflicted wounds, who should get credit for that?
I think it's always a combination, but I think it was overblown when people were making a big deal out of it early in the season. And I think it's overblown from a coaching standpoint now. A lot of it is just the players focusing and staying more disciplined. The Eagles coaching staff was pretty consistent early in the season. The only thing you're upset about with generally, I say generally, as a coach is the pre-snap stuff, the false starts, the offsides, because that stuff is just pure focus and pure discipline. Sometimes even false starts, if you're on the road and you're in that type of environment, you can forgive at least a little bit. But generally, the only thing they get upset about is the pre-snap stuff, and for good reason. And, Jonathan Gannon is probably the one that, because it's so frustrating as a defensive player when you're 3rd and 15 and you get a ticky-tack roughing the passer, a ticky-tack pass interference call, whatever, and it turns a 3rd and long into a 1st down, and it just, but there's nothing you can do about it. So, he said, give me the down, give me the distance, and just focus on the next play and get out there. That's all you can do. And we talk about NFL officiating a lot, and that's just where the league is. It's over legislated. It is what it is. So there's, you control what you can control. Coaches say that a million times, and that's the pre-snap stuff. And the Eagles have gotten better with it. The coaching staff has stressed it, certainly, and the players have gone out there and focused a lot more. So I think both deserve a little bit of credit.
John, Nick Sirianni will probably get asked this again today, but the status of Brandon Brooks, would the Eagles prefer to take their time with him, knowing how well Nate Herbig is playing and how well this offensive line is going right now?
Yeah, well, Jack is back at right guard. I mean, there's no question. I mean, Brandon Brooks is a great player, but there's also very little chance that Brandon Brooks is back here next year. So again, we talk about these two masters. Are you worried about long term? Now, Isaac Seumalo's injury, and that's why they moved Landon Dickerson from right guard to left guard, because he's out for the season. Landon's going to be there the entire year, barring his own injury. So how important is it to get, is Jack Driscoll's future at right guard? Maybe, probably not. But yeah, I mean, they said 8 weeks. It's been 8 weeks. There's no update. I mean, it could be coming from both sides. Does Brandon want to get out there? Does Brandon want to risk another injury, knowing he's got probably a new contract to deal with after this season if the Eagles decide to move on? There's a lot of moving parts to that. And it is a little bit weird that the Eagles, they will not give us any concrete information on Brandon Brooks and where he is from a health standpoint. But, if it's obviously he hurt his pec, so it wasn't a torn pec, so he's not out for the year. This is a long time for a strained pec. So make of it what you will, I guess. It is a little bit strange.
J Mac, you said you don't think that, and Jake Driscoll's got to show that and prove that he's a starting player in this league. But if he does, what position do you think it would be if not right guard?
Well, I think he's a natural right tackle. That's where he played in college at Auburn. That's where he's most comfortable. And obviously, the Eagles don't need a right tackle right now. And a lot of people, you've heard the Big V comparison a lot over the past number of weeks. People comparing Jack to Halapoulivaati Vaitai. Jason Kelsey has done it. Lane Johnson's done it. And maybe his best long-term role is the sixth man, the guy who plays everywhere if you need him. And plug him in. I think that's the Eagles' thinking long term. And ultimately, we'll see what they do at right guard. Could be Brandon, could be Jack, could be somebody not here. We're not even thinking about it. It's probably not going to be Nate Herbig, and I don't understand why, but that's another conversation. Every time they're forced to put Nate Herbig in there, he just plays well. And for whatever reason, they don't view him as a starter.
John, DeVonta Smith, he's been, in my opinion, one of the few impact rookies, at least in the high end of the draft this year. Do you feel with Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, I mean, they're having good starts too, but where would you rank him amongst those three right now?
They're all good. It's, I think they're all a little bit different. I think DeMonte's the most well-rounded. I'm amazed at DeVonta Smith's route running ability. People probably know that by now. It's amazing for a rookie player. The last guy I saw come in the league that advanced was Stephon Diggs, and you see him and what he's been able to do. It's so rare. Because and a lot, at the college level, Mike Evans is probably the best example of this. He lined up on the right side like every single snap, played the same thing, ran the same route. And, he arrived in the NFL and didn't know much of the route tree. It was really, really difficult. He's certainly been able to overcome it. But I think that happens more than people realize. And the fact DeVonta came in and was that far advanced really is a good, to put it mildly, is a good situation. And the fact that he's going to develop into a really, really good receiver. The other two are really good too. I mean, Jamar Chase is certainly the most explosive. I compare him a lot to CD Lamb because he's going to drop the football occasionally, but who cares? He's going to make so many big plays down the field. And Jalen Waddle's really good too. I mean, if he gets at what I call a high volume throw, if he gets that 4,000-yard passer, he would put up astronomical numbers as well. They're all three of them are really, really good receivers. So,
all right, I need both you guys. I need both you guys to repeat after me. Free Greg Ward. We need it this week, John. We do not need Jalen Reagor anymore. We need to get Ward involved in this. The guy catches everything that's thrown his way, which is almost never. They need to get him on the field and maybe actually target him a couple times this week.
Yeah, it ain't happening, Jody. It ain't happening. Now maybe it gets on the field.
So we need another jet sweep for -7 yards from Jalen Reagor. Is that what you're telling me?
You should probably put that in the back pocket. But those two things are not mutually exclusive. Like I always joke, Nick Sirianni's got his play sheet, and there's a bunch of plays on there for DeVonta Smith, and there's a bunch of plays on there for Dallas Goedert. And then you got the scraps. And remember, and people are probably going to take this the wrong way, but, the same thing happened with Matt Collins when Carson Wentz was here. Remember that stretch when Matt Collins was playing a lot and he didn't catch a football and people were losing their mind. He's on the field for 40 plays and he doesn't have one target. And, one of the coaches that shall remain nameless, but you can figure it out. So why you kill me if I target Matt Collins? Why am I targeting Matt Collins? You're sixth on the list of people to get the football to in an era where, and again, this is the era of football. This is not a criticism of Jalen Hurts. There's no Peyton Mannings out there. Nobody's going to the fourth progression. So if you're not one or two, you're not getting the football. Bottom line. And DeVonta's one and Dallas is two. And we'll see if Dallas is healthy. Now, the question is, if Dallas can't get through the concussion protocol, then who is number two? That's when you have the issue. You're really good at 1 and 2, and probably 3 and 4 is the running backs more than any of the receivers. And then you start talking about the Jack Stoles of the world getting the catches for 2 yards. But there are no guys who are going through, there's my first progression, there's my second progression, there's my third progression. I'm going to dump it off to the back. Peyton Manning doesn't exist in the modern NFL, with the exception, obviously, of one guy, and we all know who that is.
So, John, I know the Eagles protected John Hightower yesterday, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but I'm like, okay, is it?
Yeah, you're overthinking it.
Were JGR take a Whiteside, or is it because that was Goddard's injured?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, John might be elevated. I think he's got one more elevation. JJ's hurt again. Who knows? I mean, JJ comes off the field, it seems like every week, and then he's playing the next week. And he's a special teams player, JJ. So, I mean, if he's healthy, if he's ready to play, he'll be out there. If not, probably John will be up. But he's not getting targeted. And if he does, it'll be on, a scramble, and Jalen just sees him down the field. And, but they're not going to be big parts of the offense. When you talk about role players, they're not going to be big parts of the offense. They're just not.
All right, J. Mac, I was just looking something up to make a point. I got a great trivia question for you. Carr, you can hop in here. I don't know if you guys have your computer in front of you. The Magic Man led the National Football League in passing yards in 1989. So you did do a disservice to the Magic Man.
And what was the Packers' record, more importantly?
10-6, big guy, made the Pro Bowl. Went to the playoffs, made the Pro Bowl.
Don Mikowski to me is famous for one thing and one thing only: getting hurt in Week 3 against the Bengals with Brett Favre coming in. So
yeah, that was their Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady moments. Everybody was saying, "Oh, that's not good." It was really good.
And here comes the next decade
really
of Brett Favre. Yes, I'm not going to argue that, but you did a disservice to Don Mikowski. So I was looking at guys who have led the NFL in yards passing, and that Breeze guy did it like 8 times, and Brady and Manning and Favre, and there's very few guys. You got to go a long way back to 1989, 30 plus years ago, but there aren't 32 different guys who have done it.
So here's the point I was trying to make, Jody. What year was Brett Favre? Probably, what are we saying? Early 90s, 91?
92. He became the
91, 92. Yeah, 92. So, all right, go from 91 to say 71. How many 10-win seasons did the Packers have? That might have been the only one.
Don Mikowski had one. You did a disservice to the Magic.
They were only good in the late 80s, Jody. That was it.
Yeah, that might have been
because of the Magic Man. That's what I'm saying.
And Sterling Sharp, I'm sure he had a lot to do with it.
Here's what I saw.
Football Reference and look at their records and tell me how many 10-win seasons they had in the prior 2 decades.
Yeah, your overall point was correct. I just would have went comma, except for the Magic Man. But that's just me.
What, Jody? Case Keenum was 5th in the MVP voting when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying Case Keenum's a great quarterback.
No, but he had the year that
can have a good
he
year.
had the year that he had. Yeah, well, one year. There are a whole bunch of guys that don't even have 1 year. I'll give you a guy who I guess had 1 year. I did not know this. Who do you think led the National Football League in yardage passed for in 2009, which is only 12 years ago? It isn't like a long way back.
It's Matt Schaub.
Matt Schaub. When the hell did he ever lead the National Football League in yardage? I couldn't believe that when I just looked. No friggin' way Matt Schaub led the NFL in yardage. Yeah, he did.
Well, that's a good point. That's another good one. Matt Schaub had a couple good seasons. Jeff's the stats guy. Matt Schaub was pretty good for a while.
I covered Westchester East for a while too. You're always reminded of how good Matt Schaub was every once in a while.
Yeah, he throw the
who was a big Matt Schaub fan? I'll tell you a quick story. Take 45 seconds. I'm at the Giant camp 8 years ago, 10 years, 12 years ago, whatever it was. Their general manager sat down with us. Ernie did. And we talked about the Eli Manning acquisition, and they took Phillip Rivers or whatever else. And he sat there and said, I would have taken any of the 4 quarterbacks. And I said, 4? It was Rivers, it was Roethlisberger, it was Eli. He said, oh, no, Matt Schaub. That he had all 4 of those guys grouped together. I go, no. It was 3. He goes, no, I like Schaub. If we had gotten Schaub, I would have been perfectly fine with Schaub. And I rolled my eyes. But he did lead the National Football League in yardage in passing 1 year, which comes as a massive surprise for you truly.
I'm going to say, what was he, a 3rd-round pick, Jeff?
Yeah, he was a 3rd-rounder. Yeah.
I'm going to put the over-under on Matt Schaub at least 2 4,000-yard seasons.
I think he had 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he might. That's why my over on. He might be over. And I'm going to go over 2 Pro Bowls. He was a good player.
I think it was over, too. He had that stretch for like 4 years before he threw like an interception. Like I remember when he basically imploded on Sunday Night Football, and I'm like, Matt Schaub, like, what happened to him?
Yeah, he got really bad really quick. But people do forget he had probably a 4-year run, maybe, where he's pretty good quarterback.
By the way, is he still the Falcons' backup quarterback? Because he's been hanging around now for the better part of a decade, living off those 4,000-yard seasons.
He retired. It's Josh Rosen now.
Oh,
yeah, Josh Rosen. Yeah, but Matt played. Hey, God, he had to be. He was over 15, I would think, over 15 years, probably.
Yeah, he was in a long time. I just remember he just toiled around with the Falcons as their backup. I think he was backup for a bunch of teams too. I think the 49ers were one of them at one point.
Yeah, he was backup in Atlanta for a long time. I think. Well, obviously, I think he started in Atlanta. They drafted him, and then he finished in Atlanta. But he was really good in Houston. That's where he's really good. And I remember he was in Baltimore for a little bit. But
and Ernie, of course, he was a big fan. I couldn't believe he grouped him with those other three quarterbacks, but he did do a decade plus in the league. So give him
Matt Schaub is the modern day Mark Rippon. I didn't realize Mark Rippon played in the league as long as he did. I knew he came back with the Eagles.
Yeah, but Mark won a Super Bowl. That's where Mark gets.
And I think he led the league in passing too one year.
Oh yeah, Mark won MVP. I think 1 year.
Yeah, you're right. I think he's one of those rare guys, MVP, Super Bowl MVP.
That I would not be surprised. Rippon, Schaub leading the league in passing did just blow my mind. I did not remember that, and it is only 12 years ago. All right. Speaking of quarterbacks, should the Eagles be worried about Trevor Siemian on Sunday, John Mack?
Worried? No. I mean, look, he's capable of beating you, but no, I mean, this is a team that had to go through the ringer in the first half. I don't think they're going to be worried about Trevor Siemian. The problem is there's the human nature aspect of, breathing the sigh of relief and saying, oh, all right, look at this stretch we got going. That's what you got to worry about. But, that's a good problem to have if you're Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon. I mean, Trevor Siemian's an NFL player, an NFL quarterback. He's been around for a long time as a backup. He's had some big games in Denver, and he's played pretty well with the Saints. So you can't take him for granted, but at the same time, you're also not, it's not the sense of urgency of, oh, Patrick Mahomes is on the schedule this week, to put it lightly. So, the NFL is difficult. And that's what I said yesterday on the show, Jody. Not that these guys can't play, because they can all play, but it's the easiest stretch you're going to see from a quarterback standpoint in the second half for the Eagles moving forward until Week 18. And who knows if Dak Prescott even shows up for Week 18, because we don't know where Dallas is going to be. But, I mean, you got to take advantage of it, but I don't think anybody's going to worry them.
All right, let me put it this way. Next 6 weeks, you got Daniel Jones twice. You got Taylor Heineke. He played great this week against the Bucs, but it seems like that's the only team he plays great against is Tampa. Taylor Heineke. You got the to-be-determined Jets starting quarterback, and you got Trevor Siemian. If I tell you he's the quarterback that I worry about most out of those 6 games, would you agree or disagree with me?
No, I would fear the unknown more. Like I assume Zach Wilson is going to be back, your guy, and he can sling the football. I mean, he's got talent.
Josh Johnson, you're afraid of Josh Johnson and the Jets?
No, I assume Zach Wilson is going to be back. That would be the guy I most fear because of the unknown, and he's got actual talent. And then probably Daniel Jones after that, because he's got some ability. He can run the football.
Siemian's going to jump up and bite your butt, McMullen. Remember, you heard it here first.
You just said,
much like the Magic Man, you're disrespecting Trevor Siemian. You're doing a good job at disrespecting quarterbacks today, buddy.
I am, and I will just say that, yeah, if I'm putting myself in Jonathan Gannon's shoes, I'm not worried about Trevor Siemian. I'm not.
I'm not all that worried about the
aggressive against him.
I mean, and by that I mean it's just, going into it, the NFL, everybody has good players. I say all the time, you can talk yourself into things. If you want to look for ways you can lose a game, you're going to find 100 different ways because everybody's got good players. But when you're facing Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady and Justin Herbert and Derek Carr and everybody else, I mean, he's not that level. So you say, okay, it's a little bit easier this week. And that doesn't mean you can let your guard down. You got to take advantage of it. But he's not those guys. That's not an insult. That's just common sense.
No, the insult was that Daniel Jones is better, but that's how I would look at it if I were Trevor Siemian.
Well, Jody, I love you, man, but once you turn on a player, that's it. You close the book.
Absolutely.
If Jody
man of conviction. Until proven wrong, I'm going to stand by my stances. Has Daniel Jones proven me wrong yet that he can't play?
Now, Daniel Jones has not been great, but as we know, and the same way, I just said, who am I more fearful of? Because who's got the better skill set? Who can run the football? Who can do some different things? Who can beat you that way? Trevor Simeon's everything's got to be perfect. You got to have the pass protection. The receiver's got to show up. He's not going to beat you with his legs. You got to stay ahead of the sticks. Everything's got to be on schedule. There's no margin of error for the Saints. And
Trevor Simeon is not running 81 yards and tripping 7 yards before the line.
Well, yeah. He's not running 81 yards in 18 games, I don't think. So from that perspective, yeah, look, I'm not fearful of any of them. That's the whole point. Over this next stretch, you shouldn't be fearful of any of them. You should thank your lucky stars that's who's they're putting up the bowling pins. I mean, you just have to take advantage of it.
I'm just here to point out that last week against the Tennessee Titans defense, which, oh, by the way, is better than Eagles defense, Trevor Simeon threw for almost 300 yards. I'm just worried that much like John McMullen, the Philadelphia Eagles will take Trevor Simeon a little lightly going into this week's game. That's my only.
Well, that was the whole reason I took the Eagles to beat Denver. It's certainly possible that that's my point. That's your job as a coach. You can't be fearful, but you got to make sure the players don't take their foot off the gas because they see Trevor Simeon and they say, "Oh, we breathe a sigh of relief. We got no more great quarterbacks." Yeah, that's real. That part's real, but I don't think you're fearful of him as a player is what I'm saying.
Here's the other thing I got to point out, too. This is kind of a must-win game for the Saints as well. They lose, they're 5-5, and they're right with everybody else.
Yeah, the Saints aren't making the playoffs. I'm predicting that right now.
All right. Well, when Assumption's own Deontay Harris gets behind Darius Slay because he got a little excited by his big play last week and he's looking to make another one. And just remember, Jody warned about that on Wednesday. That
for my boy, JaKIB Smith.
I mean, he can make big plays. There's no question about that. I mean, that kid can run, but he doesn't even play that much. So, I mean, he's not because of his size.
He leads the Saints in yards receiving this year.
That ain't saying much, though.
Yeah, that ain't saying much. I'm saying snap-wise, he's not on the field a lot because you can't use him a lot because of his size. He's made plays when he's on the field. And compared to, their other receivers, obviously Michael Thomas is out. I don't even know. I guess Callaway is their, the guy who plays the most. Is that right?
Yeah. So it was Callaway early, and now it's Tre'Quan Smith since he's back.
Tre'Quan Smith hasn't been very good. I mean, Deontay's just really, really small. So he doesn't play a lot, just from a number standpoint.
I'd like to see one of the Eagles wide receivers not named DeVonta Smith jump up and do that this week.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen. Yeah. I would rather have them, than those guys. Yeah, I would rather have it. But my assumption is that the Saints will not make the playoffs because there are too many injuries. They don't have their quarterback. It's, Sean Payton deserves a ton of credit for having them above water as we stand here. And who knows? Is Kamara going to play? We'll know better today. I don't know how long he's going to be.
That's the one that's the news conference I want to be in for because I want to find out what's going on with him or how serious is his injury. Not just for Eagles Saints purposes. Alvin Kamara is the reason why my fantasy team's 8-2 right now.
Yeah, I mean, Alvin Kamara changes your games. I mean, that guy is really difficult to deal with. I mean, really, really difficult to deal with. So, if he doesn't play, the Eagles are in really, really good shape. And that'll be something to keep an eye on as the week moves.
That's one person I'm not afraid of, Mark Ingram. I like him, but he's only effective when Kamara's
Yeah.
Makes him better, correct. All right, John, no, we got to let you run. Last thing. Do you expect to get a probable on Goddard information? You know they're not going to say, oh, he's good to go.
No, he said they're not allowed to give out information when guys are in protocol. They're just going to say he's in the protocol, which we already know. So, yeah, Josh Sweat got through it in a week. Depends on the player. Depends on the previous concussions. Everybody's different. But you probably won't even know that till Saturday. In fact, you definitely won't know it until Saturday. That's when they would pass the protocol. Now, if he's on the field working, for an example, Josh Sweat was on the field working on a side field Wednesday. By Thursday, was back at practice in a limited fashion. Those are all signs that he's going through the protocol quickly, and he cleared it Saturday. If Goddard's not on the field today, if he's not limited, you know, it's not going as well. It's not going as fast. So there are little signs you can pick up, but you're not allowed to even give status. You just say the guy's in the concussion protocol.
Well, J-Mac will have those insights for us tomorrow. Buddy, thanks for hopping on. I'll tell Don Mikowski you said hello. Appreciate your jumping on at the start of the show today.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Johnny Mac, usual partner. Jeff Kurtz in his stead, and he's sticking around with me. We got plenty more to break down for you. Hour number 2, we're going to get a bud of the show, been on before, does a great job on his website, crossingbroad.com. Kevin Kennedy's going to join us. Kevin Kincaid, going to join us a little bit later on. But coming back with Jeff Kurtz next, it's me, Jody Mack. You've got to tune the Birds 365.